At 34, I, Morgan Williams, found myself in a situation I'd never envisioned, standing outside my mother's 60th birthday celebration, explicitly uninvited. Mom and I had always shared a close bond, or at least that's what I had long believed, until my father became an obstacle at the entrance, his expression coldly distant. He stated flatly that I wasn't listed, treating me like an intrusive stranger attempting to infiltrate an exclusive gathering. From behind him, I saw my sister Brooke watching, a faint smirk playing on her lips as I stood there, a gift clutched in my hand, my heart feeling utterly fractured. Before recounting the subsequent events, I wanted to take a moment to connect with you, the listener. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Perhaps you've experienced a similar pain, a sense of exclusion from those who should offer unconditional affection. If so, please hit the like button to acknowledge that shared feeling. My upbringing as the middle child in suburban Chicago felt perpetually shadowed. I occupied the space between Brooke, my older sister, who was the undisputed academic star, and Tyler, my younger brother, who was universally adored. Our family albums unintentionally documented this dynamic. Brooke prominent, often with accolades, Tyler cradled or celebrated, and myself frequently positioned near the edge, sometimes partially cropped from the frame. Yet Mom had been different. There was a time when she truly was. I recall being 7 and heartbroken after being overlooked for Melissa Anderson's birthday party. While Dad dismissively remarked that not everyone receives every invitation, Mom instead sat with me, crafting paper party hats. We staged our own private celebration, just the two of us. "You possess a unique quality, Morgan," she whispered to me then. "Never allow yourself to forget that." Later, at 12, I achieved 3rd place in the science fair for my model of the solar system. It wasn't the first place Brooke invariably secured, but Mom still took my certificate and had it framed. "Achievement isn't solely about being the best," she told me. "It's about offering your best effort." She displayed it right beside Brooke's wall of numerous accomplishments. Dad removed it 3 days later, claiming it added visual clutter, but Mom secretly kept it tucked away in her bedside drawer. When I turned 16, my plans for a birthday party dissolved as friends canceled at the last minute, opting for a more popular girls' event. Mom responded by driving me 2 hours into the city to attend a musical I had desperately wanted to see. We dressed formally, dined at an elegant restaurant, and she made me feel like the most significant person in the world. "Sometimes," she reassured me, "the depth of a connection outweighs the number of people involved." These particular moments served as crucial anchors for me, undeniable proof that at least one person in my family truly saw and valued me. However, circumstances shifted dramatically when I departed for college. Unlike Brooke, who attended Northwestern nearby, I chose to venture further afield, enrolling at Boston University. "Why such a distance?" Dad had questioned disapprovingly. "Are we not adequate for you?" That initial geographic distance gradually evolved into an emotional chasm. Following graduation, I surprised many, myself included, by flourishing within the tech industry. While Brooke followed Dad into the family insurance business and Tyler drifted between various bartending positions, I aggressively ascended the corporate hierarchy. By 34, I was Director of Operations at Vertex Technologies, managing a workforce exceeding 200 and overseeing a budget that rendered my father's agency minuscule by comparison. My professional success inadvertently created a significant rift within the family. Holiday visits became fraught with tension. "Still working for that computer company?" Dad would inquire, despite my having sent family gift baskets branded with the Vertex logo each Christmas for half a decade. The inevitable follow-up was always, "When do you plan to settle down and provide your mother with grandchildren?" This was posed despite Brooke and her long-term boyfriend, Jesse, also not having children. But the primary source of friction lay with Brooke. 3 Thanksgivings prior, after too many glasses of wine, she cornered me in the kitchen. "You honestly believe you're exceptional with your privileged Boston existence?" she hissed, deliberately forceful as she sliced the pumpkin pie. "You possess no understanding of the daily reality here, managing Mom and Dad, while you intermittently send gifts and consider that sufficient connection." "I contact them weekly," I defended myself, "and invite us to visit simply to showcase your life," she retorted sharply. "With you, Morgan, everything is a competition. It always has been." The profound irony of this accusation, coming from Brooke, was staggering. My entire childhood had been spent observing her accumulate accolades while I applauded from the periphery. "That's an unfair assessment," I responded, striving to keep my voice low. "My achievements are the result of my own diligent effort." Her eyes narrowed. "Do you imagine yourself superior because you escaped? Let me inform you of something important. Mom doesn't boast about your job. She barely comprehends what you do. At least I remain here, fulfilling the role of a real daughter." Her words inflicted a deeper wound than she could have known. After that difficult Thanksgiving, Mom's weekly calls became monthly, then increasingly sporadic. When we did converse, her tone felt distant, preoccupied. The woman who had once cherished my science fair certificate now seemed to struggle with recalling even fundamental details about my life. Tyler, as he always had, followed Brooke's lead. Our previously lighthearted text exchanges deteriorated into single-word replies. My last visit saw him glued to his phone throughout the weekend, offering barely a flicker of acknowledgement. Dad, who had never been my fervent advocate, saw his disapproval solidify into something far more rigid. "Your mother expresses concern about you," he'd remarked during our increasingly infrequent conversations, alone in that urban environment, excessively focused on work. "It's not a typical life path for a woman your age." I attempted to explain that I wasn't isolated. I had a network of friends, colleagues, a fulfilling life I had actively constructed. However, to them, my definition of success, devoid of their traditional markers of family connection, wasn't legitimate success at all. It was, in their view, failure disguised by professional achievement and material comfort. Mom's gradual emotional withdrawal was the most painful aspect. The woman who had readily embarked on a 2-hour drive for a musical now appeared unable to spare even 5 minutes on a phone call without Brooke's perceived presence looming. "Brooke mentions you're too occupied for us now," she stated once, her voice small. "Is there truth to that, Morgan?" Regardless of my response, a narrative had already been firmly established. I was the daughter who chose to leave, the one who prioritized a career over family connection. I had been cast as the villain in a story I never consented to participate in. Last Thanksgiving marked the definitive breaking point. Following another pointed remark from Brooke concerning my supposedly empty life, I finally reacted. "At least my life was built through my own efforts," I stated, setting down my fork. I didn't simply inherit a position in Dad's business and pretend that constituted distinction. Silence fell over the table. Mom looked visibly distressed. Dad's face became rigid with anger. "I believe you should depart," Brooke said quietly, her tone laced with triumph. And so I did. I gathered my belongings, arranged for transportation, and flew back to Boston that same night. No one reached out to offer an apology. In fact, no one called at all until 3 months later when I stumbled upon a Facebook post detailing Mom's 60th birthday celebration. The post wasn't from her account. She seldom used social media, but from Brooke's. It announced a large party with all extended family invited. Apparently, this invitation did not extend to me. I discovered the details of Mom's upcoming celebration during a late night spent mindlessly scrolling through Facebook at the office. Brooke had created an event page, complete with a professionally designed banner announcing Patricia Williams' 60 years of love. The guest list featured distant relatives I hadn't interacted with in years, childhood neighbors, even Mom's old college roommate who now resided in Florida. My own name was conspicuously absent from the list of attendees. I stared at my screen, the blue light illuminating my face in the dimly lit office. It was approaching midnight in Boston, and I was still reviewing quarterly reports while the cleaning crew worked around my desk. This level of dedication was precisely what my family often criticized, yet it was also the very quality that had earned me respect and advancement in an industry not always readily accessible to women. "Morgan." My assistant, Rachel, appeared in the doorway. "You're still here." Security just checked in, wondering if everything was all right. I quickly minimized the Facebook tab. "Just completing some pending tasks," I replied. Rachel nodded, unconvinced. "You know, most people aren't working past midnight on a Friday. Since when have I adhered to the norms of most people?" I attempted a smile, but it didn't quite reach my eyes. After she departed, I reopened Facebook and allowed myself a rare indulgence, scrolling through older family photographs. Mom's 59th birthday the previous year. An event I missed due to an emergency with a client in Tokyo. Tyler's promotion to head bartender, which I congratulated him on via text. Dad and Mom's anniversary dinner. Everyone in the photos was smiling, yet there was an empty space where I should have been. I picked up my phone and called my mother directly. It was late, but she was typically a night owl. Morgan. She sounded surprised. Is something wrong? This had become the nature of our relationship. Calls signified crises, not connection. Everything is fine, Mom, I reassured her. I paused, gathering myself. I saw details about your birthday party on Facebook. A brief silence followed. Oh, that. I didn't receive an invitation, I said, disliking the smallness of my voice. I thought. She hesitated. Brooke mentioned you were overly busy. That significant project you spoke of, the expansion into Singapore, isn't that scheduled for next month? I pressed the bridge of my nose. Mom, this is your 60th birthday celebration. Naturally, I would prioritize being there. Well, her voice softened slightly. Of course you should attend. It would be wonderful to have you here. The rest of the conversation felt awkward, with Mom providing only basic information and sounding strangely uncertain. Immediately after hanging up, I booked a first-class flight to Chicago for the following weekend. The ticket cost $2,100, a sum I could hardly justify spending, but the importance of this felt paramount, indispensable. The next morning, I contacted Rachel from my apartment. I'll require Friday off next week, I informed her. A family commitment. Taking time off for family. She sounded genuinely astonished. Are you feeling unwell? Very humorous, I replied. Just handle the rescheduling of vendor meetings, please. Preparing for this trip became an exercise in strategic planning akin to a military operation. I dedicated hours to finding the perfect gift. A vintage emerald brooch from an antique shop, reminiscent of one Mom had always admired in her grandmother's jewelry collection, paired with a premium spa package at a resort she had expressed interest in visiting. The total expense neared $3,000. Perhaps extravagant, but I felt compelled to demonstrate, despite my perceived absence, that I still understood what would genuinely please Mom. Selecting an outfit involved similar strategic consideration. I ultimately chose a sapphire blue dress, conservative enough to avoid Dad's potential disapproval, yet sufficiently stylish to subtly indicate my professional success. Not that their approval was necessary, I told myself, even as I swiped my credit card with a touch of self-doubt. The night before my flight, I rehearsed potential conversations in my bathroom mirror. So wonderful to see everyone, I practiced, forcing a smile that shouldn't appear overly eager. Regarding my work, things are progressing well, but let's focus on the celebration, deflecting any impulse to boast. And for Brooke, I regret my words from last Thanksgiving, even acknowledging that she had initiated the conflict. I practiced these phrases repeatedly, as if preparing for the most critical presentation of my career. In a significant way, it felt precisely like that. The morning of my departure, a text arrived from Brooke. It read, "Heard you're coming. Just ensure this weekend isn't about you." I reread those words throughout the entire Uber journey to Logan Airport. How could I possibly formulate a response? After much deliberation, I typed simply, "Looking forward to celebrating Mom," and sent it. The flight to Chicago provided 3 hours to oscillate between hopeful anticipation and anxious worry. I attempted to review work documents but couldn't absorb the content, then practiced deep breathing techniques recommended by my therapist. Your family dynamics tend to reactivate old behavioral patterns, Dr. Levine had explained during our sessions. Remember, you are returning as the adult you are now, not the child you once were. The advice was sound in theory, but proving challenging to internalize when approaching the powerful gravitational pull of childhood dynamics. Upon arrival, I checked into the Westin downtown rather than staying at my parents' suburban residence. This was another decision likely to be interpreted as my considering myself too good for them, but the prospect of sleeping in my childhood bedroom, still adorned with high school debate team pennants, felt unbearable. I required neutral territory, a safe haven should things deteriorate. That evening, I ordered room service and carefully laid out my attire for the following day. The blue dress, modest silver heels, Simple pearl earrings that had been a college graduation gift from Mom. Every detail was calculated to convey a specific message. Successful yet understated, professional yet retaining a sense of femininity, independent yet undeniably still their daughter. I slept very little. By morning, I had convinced myself this trip would either initiate a profound healing or irrevocably sever the fragile connection that remained. There seemed to be no intermediate possibility. I applied my makeup with trembling hands, styled my hair, and practiced one final smile in the mirror. "Happy birthday, Mom," I whispered to my reflection. "I truly hope you're pleased to see me." The chosen venue was a beautifully renovated boathouse situated on the shores of Lake Michigan, perfectly reflecting Mom's refined yet unpretentious taste. Natural wood beams and expansive floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of the April sunlight shimmering on the water. In the parking lot, I recognized familiar vehicles: Uncle Robert's classic Corvette, Aunt Diana's practical Subaru, even my cousin Stephen's motorcycle. The Williams family cars, as recognizable to me as childhood toys. As I approached the entrance, carefully holding my wrapped gift, I noticed my father's college friend, Thomas Polson, smoking outside. "Morgan." His eyebrows shot up in surprise. "My goodness, is that truly you? It's been ages." "Hello, Mr. Polson," I responded, automatically reverting to the formality of my youth. "It's good to see you. You bear a striking resemblance to your mother at your age," he commented, offering an awkward side hug. "She'll be absolutely delighted you made it. She was just expressing her wish that all her children could be here today." His comment sent a confusing pang through me. Why would Mom express such a wish if she was aware I was planning to attend? Before I could formulate a question, my cousin Eliza emerged from the building. "Morgan." Her surprise appeared genuine as she embraced me. "I had no idea you were coming. Brooke mentioned you couldn't make it due to a significant work commitment. I made adjustments to some meetings," I explained carefully, feeling an increasing sense of unease. "It's Mom's 60th. I wouldn't possibly miss it." Eliza's expression shifted subtly. "Right. Well, everyone is inside. Your mom looks radiant." I followed her toward the entrance, where my father was positioned, greeting arriving guests. His gray hair was neatly trimmed, his posture still rigidly upright from his years in the military reserves. When his eyes met mine, the usual warmth of a greeting was absent. Instead, his face hardened into the familiar expression I associated with childhood disciplinary moments. "Morgan," he stated flatly, "what are you doing here?" His question instantly displaced the carefully rehearsed greeting I had prepared. "I'm here for Mom's birthday celebration," I replied, attempting to maintain a light tone. "Is that so surprising?" He lowered his gaze to a clipboard in his hand, tracing his finger down what appeared to be a guest list. "Your name is not on the list." Those 4 simple words seemed to hang suspended in the air between us. I felt a rush of heat to my face, acutely aware that others were observing this interaction. "There must be a misunderstanding," I said quietly. "I spoke with Mom last week. She expressly said I should come." My father's expression remained unchanged. "There is no misunderstanding. This event has been months in the planning by individuals who are genuinely engaged in your mother's life." The deliberate cruelty embedded in his statement stole my breath. Behind him, I could see other guests making a show of not watching, while clearly observing every moment. The humiliation felt public, intentionally orchestrated. "Dad," I said, lowering my voice further, "please don't escalate this. I traveled specifically for this occasion. I simply want to extend birthday wishes to Mom." "You should have initiated contact first," he stated. "This is a private function intended for those who genuinely prioritize family connection." Before I could formulate a response, Brooke appeared at his side, her boyfriend, Jesse, slightly behind her. She was wearing a pink dress strikingly similar to one of Mom's, her hair styled in the soft waves Mom preferred. The visual symbolism was unmistakable. She was the true daughter, the rightful recipient of maternal affection. "Is there an issue?" she inquired with a sweet, almost cloying tone, her eyes nevertheless glinting with satisfaction. "Morgan isn't listed among the guests," Dad reiterated. "Oh," Brooke's display of false concern was almost artistic. "That's certainly awkward. I believed we had addressed this, Morgan." We discussed absolutely nothing, I countered, struggling to maintain my composure. I communicated directly with Mom. Mom likely felt pressured, Brooke offered with a shrug. You're aware how she dislikes confrontation. I attempted to look past them, searching the crowd inside for my mother. Where is she? I would prefer to speak with her personally. She is occupied with her actual guests, Dad stated dismissively. I will not permit you to cause her distress on her birthday. I noticed Jesse shifting uncomfortably behind Brooke, his gaze fixed intently on the ground. He was tall, conventionally attractive, with dark hair and glasses, dressed in a suit that looked expensive but slightly ill-fitting. I had never met him before, only seen him in Facebook photographs. He seemed markedly uncomfortable with the unfolding scene. As I remained standing there, gift in hand, I overheard an older woman whisper, "Is that Morgan?" I understood she wasn't communicating with the family any longer. Another voice, possibly Cousin Stephen's wife, added, Brooke mentioned she called Patricia an unsupportive mother during Thanksgiving. Can you imagine? And then Brooke herself, making no effort to lower her voice, remarked, did she genuinely believe she would be welcomed after the things she said? In that precise moment, the situation became unequivocally clear. This rejection was not a spontaneous reaction. It had been meticulously planned, likely anticipated with a degree of satisfaction. I was being subjected to punishment, not merely excluded. I drew a deep breath and focused on my self-possession. I would not shed tears here. I would not provide them with that satisfaction. I comprehend, I said, surprising myself with the calmness in my voice. Please ensure Mom receives this. It is her birthday gift. I extended the beautifully wrapped package to my father, who accepted it almost reflexively. Convey my love to her and express my hope that she has a truly wonderful birthday. I continued, maintaining direct eye contact with him. That is the sole purpose of my visit. Without waiting for any response, I turned and walked away, my back straight, my pace deliberate. I refused to rush, despite every instinct urging me to flee this humiliating scene. Behind me, I heard Brooke's laughter, followed by my father's deeper voice saying something I couldn't quite discern. I managed to reach my rental car before my hands began trembling so uncontrollably that I couldn't insert the key into the ignition. The carefully applied mascara was in imminent danger of streaking down my cheeks like black rivers. I gripped the steering wheel, focusing on my breathing pattern. In 234. Out 234. I would not succumb to a breakdown in this parking lot. I would drive back to the hotel, pack my belongings, arrange an earlier flight, and be safely back in Boston by the following day. This chapter would be definitively closed forever. No more attempts at reconciliation. No more strained holiday phone calls. No more pretending we constituted a family rather than individuals who had once resided in the same dwelling. I was about to start the engine when a rap on my window startled me. Jesse, Brooke's boyfriend, stood beside my car, signaling for me to lower the window. His expression conveyed concern, almost apologetic. For a brief moment, I considered ignoring him and simply driving away, but my curiosity ultimately prevailed. I lowered the window halfway. Morgan, he began, then cleared his throat nervously. Ms. Williams, I mean. Just Morgan is fine, I replied automatically, then frowned. Wait, how do you know to refer to me as Ms. Williams? Jesse glanced back toward the venue, then returned his gaze to me. Because I'm employed at Vertex Technologies in Boston. I work in the software engineering department on the 3rd floor. My mind raced through internal employee directories attempting to place him. Jesse Lawson, he supplied. I joined approximately 8 months ago. I transferred from the Chicago office primarily to be closer to Brooke on weekends. I recognized you immediately when I saw you today. The universe, it seemed, possessed a rather twisted sense of humor. Of all the technology companies in Boston, my sister's boyfriend was employed by mine. I had been so intensely focused on the operational aspects of the business that I hadn't connected the dots regarding a new engineer's transfer. Does Brooke have knowledge that you work for me? I inquired. Not precisely, he admitted, appearing increasingly uncomfortable. She is aware that I work at Vertex, but I never specified that you were, well, essentially my superior, he concluded. The organizational structure at Vertex meant that while Jesse did not report directly to me, I was unquestionably within his upward management chain. May I occupy the passenger seat? He asked, indicating the door. I feel obligated to offer some form of explanation. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door. Jesse slid in immediately, his height making my rental car feel significantly smaller. I should have intervened inside, he began. What transpired was not acceptable. Then why didn't you? The question emerged more sharply than I intended. Complex family dynamics, he sighed. My relationship with Brooke is only about a year old. I'm still attempting to navigate everything. Well, now you've witnessed the Williams family operating at peak performance, I stated bitterly. That's actually the reason I followed you out here, Jesse explained, turning to face me directly. What occurred in there wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was discussed beforehand. My stomach tightened at his words. What do you mean? Last night at the rehearsal dinner, he elaborated, Brooke and your father were conversing about how to respond if you unexpectedly arrived. Your dad stated he would manage the situation. Your mother was not a participant in that discussion. The revelation that they had deliberately planned my humiliation felt somehow worse than imagining it as an impulsive act of cruelty. Does my mother possess any awareness that I attempted to attend today? I asked. Jesse hesitated. She inquired about you earlier. Wondered if you might surprise her. Brooke told her you had sent your regrets weeks ago. That is an outright falsehood, I whispered. I never. I understand, Jesse nodded. I've absorbed quite a bit over the past year. Brooke discusses you constantly. I'm certain it's all highly complimentary, I said drily. It's a complicated situation, he replied, choosing his words carefully. There exists a significant amount of jealousy on her part. She perpetually compares herself to you, though she would never openly admit it. Jealousy of what? I couldn't suppress the disbelief in my voice. She is the favored child. She has always been. But you are the one who successfully departed, Jesse stated simply. You constructed something entirely independent. And professionally. He trailed off. Professionally what? You are highly regarded, Morgan. Genuinely respected. People within the company speak admiringly of your leadership approach, your strategic foresight. When I realized Brooke's sister Morgan was the same Morgan Williams widely admired at Vertex, it felt profoundly strange. Attempting to reconcile those two differing images, I sat in stunned silence, processing his words. While I had been feeling like a professional failure in my family's perception, it appeared I had, perhaps unintentionally, become something of a role model within my own professional sphere. Brooke has been systematically undermining your relationship with your parents, Jesse continued. Subtle comments, reframing your absences as deliberate rejections, exaggerating disagreements. When your mother mentioned missing you, Brooke would reference some perceived slight. And my mother accepted her version. The pain in that question was palpable. Your mother has been experiencing some health challenges, Jesse explained gently. Nothing critical, but sufficient to render her more susceptible to manipulation, mild depression, some issues with memory. Brooke has assumed a role in assisting her by managing her social schedule, her medications. The implications struck me like physical blows. While I had been diligently building my career in Boston, Brooke had been meticulously constructing an entirely different narrative back in Chicago. A narrative where I was cast as the antagonist, the unfeeling daughter who abandoned her family in pursuit of corporate success. Why are you disclosing this to me? I finally asked. You are in a relationship with my sister. Your loyalty should presumably lie with her. Jesse looked down at his hands. Because what transpired in there was wrong. And because of my experience at Vertex, I have observed how you treat others. With respect, even when mistakes occur. The two versions of you don't align. He paused. Furthermore, purely from a selfish perspective, it creates an awkward dynamic when your girlfriend's family issues directly involve your manager. Despite the gravity of the situation, his candid admission elicited a small laugh from me. I can certainly envision that. So, what do you intend to do? He inquired. I gazed out at the expanse of Lake Michigan, its surface glittering under the spring sunshine. The simplest course would be to depart immediately, return to Boston, and finally sever these painful connections. The strategic professional part of me recognized that sometimes acknowledging and cutting losses was the most prudent decision. Yet, another part of me, perhaps the part that still held the memory of my mother creating paper party hats with me at age 7, could not simply abandon the situation unresolved. I believe, I said slowly, that it is time for everyone to hear the unvarnished truth, and that includes my mother. Jessie nodded, appearing simultaneously relieved and apprehensive. I will offer support for whatever course of action you choose. Just bear in mind that I will have to interact with these individuals during future holidays. Do not concern yourself, I reassured him, reaching for the door handle. I have acquired a degree of expertise in navigating difficult personalities within the corporate arena. As we proceeded back toward the venue, a strange sense of calm settled over me. This confrontation was not the day I had envisioned, yet perhaps it was precisely the encounter that had been necessary for years. Re-entering that building was one of the most challenging actions I had ever undertaken. More difficult than my initial major presentation to the executive board. More challenging than terminating a team member I had personally recruited. This required a fundamentally different kind of courage. The courage to face individuals who had known you since childhood and still presumed the authority to define your identity. Jessie and I accessed the building through a side door, bypassing my father's checkpoint at the main entrance. The celebration was now in full swing, with approximately 60 guests mingling around circular tables. A slideshow featuring family photographs was being displayed on a large screen. I noted my conspicuous near absence from the carefully curated selection. My mother was seated at a central table, looking elegant in a lavender dress that beautifully complemented her silver hair. She was laughing at something Uncle Robert was saying, seemingly unaware of the dramatic events that had unfolded at the entrance. Brooke noticed us first. Her eyes widened, darting between Jessie and me with a dawning sense of realization. She immediately began moving across the room toward us, but it was too late. Jessie stepped forward, his voice clear and projecting across the room as conversations naturally subsided. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Morgan Williams, Patricia's daughter. And then with impeccable timing he added, and my manager at Vertex Technologies. Silence descended upon the room. My mother's head snapped up, her eyes finding mine with a blend of confusion and what appeared to be genuine joy. Morgan! She rose from her chair, a napkin falling unnoticed to the floor. You came. Before I could respond, Brooke reached us, her face flushed with anger. Jessie, what precisely do you think you are doing? She hissed. Doing the right thing, he stated simply. My father appeared next, his expression thunderous. I believed I had made myself perfectly clear at the entrance. You certainly did, I replied, maintaining a steady tone. However, there seems to have been a misunderstanding regarding my position within this family that requires immediate clarification. Mom approached, looking between us with increasing concern. What is happening, Robert? Why do you appear so angered? Morgan, sweetheart, I am truly delighted that you are here. Her sincere joy at seeing me confirmed Jessie's earlier information. She had not been aware of my rejection at the door. This realization brought both relief and a surge of indignation. Mom, I said gently, taking her hands in mine. I need to ask you something of importance. Did you genuinely believe that I did not wish to attend your birthday? She blinked, confusion evident in her eyes. Well, Brooke stated you were preoccupied with work, that significant project you mentioned. I never stated that, I informed her firmly. In fact, when we spoke, I explicitly confirmed that I would be here. I made arrangements for time off from my work. I flew in specifically yesterday. But then why? Her gaze shifted toward Brooke, then to my father. Just moments ago at the entrance, I continued, acutely aware that the entire gathering was observing this unfolding family drama, Dad informed me that I was not listed among the guests, stating that this party was intended for individuals who genuinely prioritize family connections. Mom's expression transformed from confusion to profound shock. Robert, is this information accurate? My father's face grew redder. Patricia, we discussed this matter following her behavior at Thanksgiving. We discussed no such thing, Mom interrupted, her voice uncharacteristically sharp. Morgan is my daughter. Naturally, she is welcomed at my birthday celebration. The room had fallen so silent that the sound of ice clinking in glasses was clearly audible. This was not how I had envisioned the confrontation transpiring, certainly not in front of extended relatives and Mom's Bridge Club members, but perhaps this public accountability was precisely what was needed. There has been a consistent pattern, I stated, addressing my mother directly, yet mindful of our audience. For years now, comments I have made have been twisted or misrepresented. Absences necessitated by work have been characterized as deliberate neglect. My personal life choices have been framed as rejections of this family. Brooke stepped forward, her smile strained. This is hardly the appropriate moment or setting, Morgan. You consistently attempt to make everything revolve around yourself, even on Mom's birthday. And that, I stated, gesturing toward her, is precisely what I mean. That specific characterization of me. Selfish, self-absorbed. It is the narrative that has been constructed, but it does not represent the truth. I turned to face the room at large. Many of you have known me since I was a child. While I have never claimed perfection, my affection for my family has been constant. My career path led me to Boston, not to another planet. Communication flows in both directions. Visits are reciprocated. I saw my cousin Stephen offer a subtle nod, and Aunt Diana quietly whispered something to Uncle Robert. Brooke, I continued, employing the same calm, professional tone I utilized during complex negotiations at work, has been systematically undermining my relationship with our parents, exaggerating conflicts, reframing my professional achievements as acts of abandonment. That is utterly absurd, Brooke scoffed, though her eyes darted nervously. Is it? I turned to Jessie. What information did Brooke convey to you about me before you met me face to face today? Put on the spot, Jessie appeared uncomfortable, but he responded with honesty. That you were cold, excessively focused on your career, that you had referred to your mother as unsupportive and claimed the family was impeding your progress. I never uttered those statements, I declared firmly. It was implied, Brooke insisted. No, it was not, I countered. During Thanksgiving, after you accused me of believing I was superior to everyone, I defended myself. I stated that I constructed my career through my own efforts. That is not an attack on the family. It is a statement of fact. Mom looked utterly devastated. Is this accurate, Brooke? Have you actively worked to turn us against Morgan? Brooke's carefully maintained composure finally fractured. You don't understand the situation, she said, tears welling up. She had the opportunity to leave. She got to leave and become this highly successful executive while I remained here, managing everything, striving to be the exemplary daughter. And what recognition do I receive? You still appear more elated when she calls than when I am physically present before you. The raw pain in her voice silenced the entire room. Despite everything, I felt a momentary flash of empathy for my sister. We had both, in a way, been trapped by the roles assigned to us as children. She the achiever who stayed, I the perceived rebel who left. Brooke, Mom said softly, I have never drawn comparisons between the two of you. My love for you both is different because you are distinct individuals. Then why do you still keep her science fair certificate in your drawer? Brooke demanded, tears now streaming down her face. Third place. She achieved third place 15 years ago, and you still retain it. I was stunned. That simple certificate had become, for Brooke, a symbol of some perceived preferential treatment I had never experienced. Dad, who had remained unusually silent, finally spoke. I believe we should continue this discussion in a more private setting. No, Mom stated firmly. I am weary of secrets and misunderstandings within this family. She turned to our assembled guests. I sincerely apologize for this unexpected drama. Please everyone enjoy the food and the music. My family and I require a private moment. She gestured toward a small adjoining room, and my father, Brooke, Jessie, and I followed her. As the door closed behind us, I caught glimpses of wide eyes and heard the eruption of whispered conversations in our wake. Inside the private room, Mom assumed a position of authority I hadn't witnessed in years. Be seated, all of you. We complied like scolded children. Robert, she addressed my father first. Did you prevent our daughter from entering my birthday party at the door? Dad shifted uncomfortably. I was acting to protect you, based on the things she said about the family. And what precisely did she say? Mom pressed, emphasizing the need for his own recollection, not Brooke's interpretation. My father appeared genuinely confused, that we were hindering her development, that she was compelled to build her life independently because we offered no support. That is not an accurate representation of my words, I interjected quietly. I stated that I built my career independently, which is a truthful assertion. It was not intended as an accusation. It was a statement of fact after Brooke accused me of having an empty life. Mom turned to Brooke. Have you intentionally worked to create distance between your sister and me? Brooke's prior defiance crumbled under our mother's direct questioning. I was exhausted from feeling overlooked. Morgan arrives for holidays, and everyone makes a significant fuss. Then she disappears again while I am present daily, providing transportation to doctor's appointments, assisting with matters at home. Doctor's appointments? I interrupted, looking at my mother. What doctor's appointments are you referring to? Mom sighed. I've been experiencing some issues with mild depression and memory problems. Nothing severe, but it has presented challenges. Brooke has been exceptionally helpful. You never shared this information with me, I said, hurt evident in my voice. Brooke suggested it might cause you undue stress, given the demands of your job, Mom admitted, then frowned slightly. But I now recognize that was not her decision to make. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. My mother's increasing emotional distance, her occasional confusion during our phone conversations, the way Brooke had positioned herself as the gatekeeper to family information. I deeply regret not speaking up sooner, Jessie said unexpectedly. I have witnessed some of these conversations where statements supposedly made by Morgan were significantly exaggerated. Brooke turned to him, betrayal etched in her eyes. You are aligning yourself with her. You're superior at work over your partner. This is not about taking sides, Jessie said gently. It is about acknowledging the truth. The word truth hung in the air between us. It was something our family had skillfully evaded for years, preferring comfortable, simplified narratives over difficult realities. I wish to attempt to mend this, I stated into the silence. All of us. But it necessitates honesty. No more manipulation through intermediaries. No more controlling access to information. No more distorting conversations. Mom reached out and took my hand. That is my desire as well. I have missed you, Morgan, more than you could possibly comprehend. Dad cleared his throat. It appears I may have made some misjudgments, if what you are stating is accurate. It wasn't a full apology, but from my father, it carried significant weight. Brooke remained silent, tears now freely flowing down her face. The carefully constructed image she had cultivated, the perfect daughter, the family protector, was visibly crumbling, and I couldn't discern if she was lamenting its loss or experiencing relief at shedding the burden. Resolution will not occur within a single conversation, I acknowledged. However, this represents a beginning. As we prepared to rejoin the party, Mom detained me for a moment. Your gift, she said softly. The emerald brooch. How did you know? You showed me your grandmother's jewelry box when I was 10, I replied. You specifically pointed to a similar one that had been misplaced during a past move. You mentioned it was your absolute favorite. Her eyes filled with tears. You retained that memory. After all these years. I retain all the important memories, Mom, I said, squeezing her hand gently. Just because I am not physically present here doesn't signify my absence emotionally. We returned to the celebration. The underlying tension was still palpable, yet somehow less burdensome. The truth, even a painful truth, carries less weight than prolonged deception. As guests gradually resumed their conversations, I observed something unexpected. Family members approaching me, initiating genuine interactions rather than superficial small talk. Even my father made a discernible effort, awkwardly inquiring about the details of my work with what felt like authentic interest for perhaps the first time. Brooke remained physically and emotionally distant, processing her new reality. This confrontation had exposed not merely her actions, but also her deep-seated insecurities. Healing that particular relationship would undoubtedly require the most time, assuming it was ultimately possible. But as Mom sliced her birthday cake, with me positioned on one side and Brooke on the other, both our reflections visible in her smile, I felt something I had not anticipated experiencing that day. Hope. The Monday following Mom's birthday, I returned to my office in Boston carrying the emotional equivalent of a severe hangover. The confrontation, while necessary, had been profoundly draining. I had extended my stay through Sunday, spending time specifically with Mom, engaging in somewhat stilted but civil exchanges with Dad, and allowing Brooke the emotional space she clearly required. Rachel glanced up from her desk as I entered, coffee cup in hand. "So, how was the family gathering?" "Eventful," I replied, managing a small smile. "Extraordinarily eventful. And did they finally recognize and appreciate the exceptional, successful woman you have become?" she asked, only partially in jest. "Actually," I said, a sudden realization dawning on me, "I believe they are beginning to." The professional ramifications of the weekend's events became apparent around 11 that morning when I received an email from Human Resources confirming a departmental transfer request for Jesse Lawson. My sister's boyfriend was moving from the software engineering department to the product development team. It was a lateral move, strategically placing him outside my direct reporting structure. A professionally appropriate adjustment, yet personally complicated. I contacted Jesse that afternoon. "You weren't obligated to transfer departments," I stated when he answered. "It seemed like the most sensible course of action," he replied. "Establishes clearer boundaries, considering everything that occurred." "How is Brooke handling all of this?" I asked the question I had been consciously avoiding. Jesse's sigh was audible through the phone. "She is struggling significantly. Your confrontation shattered the particular narrative she has been occupying. She issued an ultimatum," he continued, "Saturday evening. Essentially, you or me." My stomach tightened. "Essentially," he confirmed. "She stated that if I genuinely respected her, I would resign from Vertex." The manipulative nature of the demand was so familiar it almost evoked a sense of dark humor. "What was your response to her?" "That I possess too much self-respect to permit anyone to dictate my professional choices," he stated simply. "We are currently taking a pause in our relationship while she processes everything." I felt a sharp pang of guilt. My intention was never to create a division between you two. "You did not," Jesse assured me. "This outcome was likely inevitable. I have observed patterns in her approach to conflict resolution. Your confrontation merely accelerated the process." After concluding the call, I gazed out of my office window at the Boston skyline. My personal and professional worlds had unexpectedly intersected in ways I had never anticipated, creating ethical complexities that no business school case study had prepared me for. That afternoon, I scheduled a meeting with our chief ethics officer, explaining the situation in detached, clinical terms. "I need to ensure there is absolutely no perception of impropriety in how I manage this situation," I concluded. Diane listened attentively before offering her guidance. "Thoroughly document every relevant detail. Recuse yourself from any direct decision-making authority concerning Jesse, and consider engaging with an executive coach to assist you in navigating these intersecting personal and professional boundaries." I followed her advice diligently, implementing clear protocols designed to safeguard both Jesse's career trajectory and my own professional integrity. It felt peculiar applying corporate governance principles to a personal family drama, yet perhaps that structured approach was precisely what was needed. Simultaneously, I was actively processing my own emotional reactions to the weekend's profound revelations. I scheduled an emergency session with Dr. Levine, my therapist. "You successfully asserted yourself," she observed after I recounted the details of the confrontation. "How did that experience feel?" "Terrifying," I admitted, "and subsequently immensely liberating. The family dynamics you have described are classic examples," she explained. "The favored child who remains versus the one labeled the scapegoat who departs. Your sister's identity became inextricably linked to being the dutiful daughter who made sacrifices, while you were cast as the selfish one who pursued her independent path. Neither characterization is accurate or fair. How do we work towards repair?" I inquired. Dr. Levine offered a gentle smile. "That is the pivotal question. It commences with sustained honesty and a willingness to adjust expectations. Your family dynamics will not undergo a transformation instantaneously, and perhaps not completely. 2 weeks subsequent to the birthday party, Mom called, delivering news that caused my heart to sink. Her physician had confirmed early-stage cognitive decline. It was not Alzheimer's, but noticeable memory issues that were likely to progress over time. "I should have shared this with you sooner," she said, her voice quiet. Brooke believed. "Mom," I interrupted gently, "I need you to make me a sincere promise. From this point forward, you will share these important details with me directly. Not through Brooke, not through Dad. We need to reconstruct our relationship without any intermediaries." "I promise," she said, and I detected a new sense of resolve in her tone. "In fact, I have been contemplating, would it be feasible for me to visit you in Boston, to experience your life there?" The question caught me completely off guard. In 15 years, neither of my parents had visited my adopted city. "I would absolutely cherish that, Mom. When were you considering?" "Next month. Your father has a planned fishing trip." And I thought, the implication that she wished to visit me alone, away from the complex family dynamics, warmed something within me that had long felt cold. "I will forward you potential flight options this evening," I promised. Back at work, I immersed myself in the Singapore expansion with renewed intensity. The personal clarity I had gained seemed to translate directly into professional sharpness. I found myself making bolder strategic decisions, more confidently challenging questionable ideas, and more fiercely advocating for my team. "Something seems different about you," my boss, Alan, commented after I successfully negotiated a complicated vendor contract. "More grounded." "I am learning to integrate my entire self into my work," I replied, surprising us both with the personal disclosure. The situation involving Jessie remained delicate. We maintained strictly professional interactions within the office environment, but occasionally met for coffee on weekends to process the ongoing family drama. His relationship with Brooke remained suspended, though they still communicated intermittently. "She is seeking therapy," he informed me during one such coffee meeting. That particular piece of news offered more hope than anything else. Brooke's voluntary decision to seek professional help suggested she might finally be prepared to examine her own role in the family's dysfunction. 3 months after the birthday confrontation, I received the most unexpected email of my entire career. The CEO requested a meeting to discuss a new vice president position overseeing global operations. The promotion would entail greater responsibility, increased travel, and significantly higher visibility within the corporation. During the interview, CEO Stephanie Davis posed an unexpected question. "This role frequently requires engaging in difficult conversations and maintaining firm positions under pressure. Could you describe a situation where you have demonstrated those specific qualities outside of a professional context?" I took a deep breath and shared a carefully edited account of the birthday confrontation, focusing on the fundamental principles of truth-telling and establishing healthy boundaries, rather than dwelling on the messy, personal details of the family conflict. When I finished, Stephanie nodded thoughtfully. "That is precisely why we are considering you for this position, Morgan. Your technical skills are outstanding, but it is your integrity and your courage that truly distinguish you." A week later, I formally accepted the VP position. The first person I called was my mother. "I am incredibly proud of you," she said, her voice clear and fully present in a way it hadn't been for years. "I always recognized you were destined for significant accomplishments, even when I was just achieving 3rd place in science fairs." I teased gently. "Especially then," she replied, "because you approached it in your own unique way, not attempting to conform to anyone else's expectations." As I ended the call, a profound realization settled over me. For the first time in my adult life, I felt a sense of both professional success and personal authenticity in relation to my family. The invisible barriers between those two worlds were finally beginning to dissipate. 3 months following the birthday confrontation, my mother stepped off the plane at Logan Airport, marking her initial visit to my life in Boston. I waited nervously at the arrival gate, feeling strangely like I was meeting a first date rather than my own mother. "Morgan," she called, waving enthusiastically when she spotted me. She appeared somewhat smaller, perhaps more fragile than I remembered, but her eyes were bright and clear. "Welcome to Boston, Mom," I said, embracing her warmly. "I can hardly believe you are finally here." The ensuing week proved nothing short of transformative. I took 3 full days off from work, an unprecedented action that prompted Rachel to humorously inquire if I was ill, and shared every aspect of my life here with Mom. My apartment offering views of the Charles River, my favorite local coffee shop where the baristas already knew my usual order by heart, the serene hidden garden within the public library where I would often read during my lunch breaks. "It is truly beautiful," she commented as we walked along the waterfront. "Your life here. I can genuinely see why you cherish it." On her 3rd day, I took her to the Vertex offices. Witnessing my mother interact with my colleagues, seeing her unmistakable pride as people spoke highly of my work, initiated a deep healing process within me. This was not the skewed family narrative of Morgan, the absent and self-absorbed daughter, but rather Morgan, the respected and capable leader. Jesse greeted us professionally, maintaining the appropriate boundaries we had jointly established. However, I observed the genuine warmth in his interaction with my mother, the clear respect evident in his demeanor. Regardless of the complexities he faced with Brooke, he had become an unexpected, valuable ally in my family's slow process of healing. When Mom returned to Chicago, something fundamental had irrevocably shifted. Our weekly phone calls resumed, but with newfound depth and honesty. She began sending me small, thoughtful packages, a book she believed I would enjoy, a scarf that happened to match the color of my eyes, small tokens that conveyed "I see you" more clearly than any words could. My father, too, made concerted efforts, albeit in his own somewhat awkward manner. He started emailing me articles related to the tech industry, occasionally adding comments like, "Thought this might be of interest to you." They were small steps but genuinely meaningful ones. The situation with Brooke remained the most intricate. For 2 months after the confrontation, we did not communicate directly. Then, unexpectedly, she called one evening as I was preparing for a significant presentation. "I've been dedicating a significant amount of time to introspection," she said without preamble, "and undergoing quite a bit of therapy." "That is positive news," I replied cautiously. "I am not yet prepared to delve into every detail," she continued, "but I felt it was important to state that I now understand I was mistaken about certain things. The way I characterized you to Mom and Dad was unjust. It was not fair to you. It wasn't a direct apology, but coming from Brooke, it held significant weight. Thank you for sharing that with me," I said. "Jesse mentioned you have conducted yourself very professionally throughout everything," she added. "He holds you in high regard." "He is a genuinely good person," I offered. "Regardless of what transpires between you two, I believe he genuinely cares for you." "We are attempting to work through things," she replied vaguely. "Anyway, I should conclude this call, but I simply wanted you to know that I am making an effort." My promotion to vice president brought with it new challenges and expanded opportunities. The role required increased travel, including regular trips to Singapore to oversee our expansion there. Ironically, this necessitated more frequent visits to Chicago, as O'Hare became a common layover point for my international flights. During these layovers, I began consciously scheduling brief opportunities to connect with my parents. Sometimes this involved simply sharing dinner at the airport with Mom, occasionally an overnight stay that included Dad. Gradually, these shorter, more frequent connections began building something more genuine and authentic than our previous pattern of tense holiday gatherings. My mother's health stabilized significantly with appropriate treatment for her depression and cognitive issues. My doctors believe that reducing stress has had a remarkable positive impact, she confided during one visit. All that unresolved family tension was quite literally affecting my physical well-being. 6 months after the birthday confrontation, I hosted Thanksgiving at my Boston apartment. This was a deliberate reclaiming of the holiday that had served as the painful breaking point the previous year. Mom and Dad accepted the invitation without hesitation. Tyler came, bringing his new girlfriend. Brooke declined the invitation but sent a surprisingly thoughtful gift basket. As we gathered around my dining table, expanded with a rented extension to accommodate everyone, I realized this marked the first family gathering that felt truly genuine, rather than a forced performance of familial connection. We were not merely playing out roles assigned to us in childhood. We were adults making a conscious choice to connect authentically. Before we began the meal, Mom said, raising her glass, I want to express my gratitude to Morgan for facilitating this reunion, not just physically, here in her beautiful home, but emotionally as well. Your courage in speaking your truth has initiated a transformative process within our family. Dad nodded, uncharacteristically emotional. I have dedicated a significant amount of reflection to the type of father I have been, and the type I aspire to be moving forward. I am proud of you, Morgan. Proud of your professional success, certainly, but more importantly, proud of your integrity. That acknowledgement, so long desired yet never genuinely anticipated, brought tears to my eyes. Later that evening, as everyone pitched in to assist with cleaning up, another unprecedented event in Williams' family history, I received a text message from Brooke. It read, "Hope dinner was enjoyable. Perhaps next year." Those 4 words contained more hope for potential future connection than 1,000 forced family photographs ever could. The professional lessons I gleaned from this deeply personal journey were profound. My leadership style evolved, becoming more inherently authentic and compassionate. I found myself mentoring younger women within Vertex who grappled with the challenging balance between work and personal life, sharing edited versions of my own experiences. Your intrinsic value is not determined by your family's validation or your professional accomplishments, I told one particularly promising analyst who was struggling under parental expectations. It stems from living authentically and extending dignity and respect to others. In my subsequent performance review, CEO Stephanie noted, "You have always excelled in the technical aspects of leadership. You are now infusing it with genuine compassion and understanding. That particular combination is both rare and exceptionally valuable." The birthday confrontation that I had feared would irrecoverably damage my family had instead become the unexpected catalyst for its potential transformation. It did not magically morph into some idyllic, perfect family unit straight out of a Hallmark movie. We were still messy, still actively learning, still occasionally reverting to ingrained patterns, but we were doing so with a newfound conscious awareness, possessing the courage to identify unhealthy dynamics and the compassion to offer forgiveness. My mother's insightful words spoken during her visit to Boston resonated deeply within me. Sometimes, being excluded from situations where you do not genuinely belong guides you toward discovering where you truly do. She had been referring to my career trajectory, but the sentiment applied equally to my personal relationships. The painful rejection I experienced at her birthday party had, paradoxically, opened the door to the possibility of more authentic, meaningful connection. The vintage emerald brooch I had given Mom became her cherished piece of jewelry, worn to every important family occasion thereafter. A small, enduring symbol of being truly seen and remembered, even across geographical distance. This spring, we are making arrangements for our first family therapy session. Mom, Dad, Brooke, Tyler, and myself. The decision isn't prompted by a crisis, but rather by a shared commitment to continuing the process of healing and understanding. It is scheduled to take place next month in Chicago. I have already confirmed my flight arrangements. Family relationships are not static points of reference. They are dynamic, ongoing journeys. The effort required to nurture and maintain them never truly ceases. However, I have learned that healthy boundaries are not intended as barriers that separate us from our families. Instead, they function as clear markers that empower us to connect safely and authentically, as our true selves. Have you ever found yourself in a position where you needed to stand up to family members who either misunderstood or misrepresented you? How did you navigate that situation? Please consider sharing your own experiences in the comments section below. If this narrative resonated with you in any way, I would be grateful if you would hit the like button and consider subscribing for more stories about navigating complex personal relationships and discovering your authentic voice. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my personal journey. And remember, sometimes the initial step towards healing commences with the courage to voice your truth, even when your voice trembles.